Orthodox of Orthodox Judaism practice Torah reading according to a set procedure they believe has remained unchanged in the 2,000 years since the destruction of the Temple in Jerusalem, 70 CE. In the 19th and 20th century CE, new movements such as Reform Judaism and Conservative Judaism have made adaptations to the practice of Torah reading. But the basic pattern of Torah reading has usually remained the same as a part of the morning prayer services on certain days of the week, fast days, and holidays, as well as part of the afternoon prayer services of Shabbat, Yom Kippur. A section of the Pentateuch is read from a Torah scroll. On Shabbat, Saturday, mornings, a weekly section, Parashah, is read selected so that the entire Pentateuch is read consecutively each year. The division of Parashot found in the modern-day Torah scrolls of all Jewish communities, Ashkenazic, Sephardic, and Yemenite, is based upon the systematic list provided by Maimonides in Mishneh Torah, Laws of Tefillin, Mezuzah and Torah Scrolls Chapter 8. Maimonides based his division of the Parashot for the Torah on the Aleppo Codex. Conservative and Reform synagogues may read Parashot on a triennial rather than annual schedule, 71, 72, on Saturday afternoons, Mondays, and Thursdays. The beginning of the following Saturday's portion is read. On Jewish holidays, the beginnings of each month, and fast days, special sections connected to the day are read. Jews observe an annual holiday, Sichat Torah, to celebrate the completion and new start of the year cycle of readings. Silver Torah case, Ottoman Empire, displayed in the Museum of Jewish Art and History. Torah scrolls are often dressed with a sash, a special Torah cover, various ornaments, and a kittah, crown, although such customs vary among synagogues. Congregants traditionally stand in respect when the Torah is brought out of the ark to be read, while it is being carried and lifted, and likewise while it is returned to the ark, although they may sit during the reading itself. Biblical law. The Torah contains narratives, statements of law, and statements of ethics. Collectively these laws, usually called biblical law or commandments, are sometimes referred to as the law of Moses, Torah Moshe, Mosaic law, or Sinaitic law. The oral Torah. Rabbinic tradition holds that Moses learned the whole Torah while he lived on Mount Sinai for 40 days and nights, and both the oral and the written Torah were transmitted in parallel with each other. Where the Torah leaves words and concepts undefined, and mentions procedures without explanation or instructions, the reader is required to seek out missing details from supplemental sources known as the oral law or oral Torah. 73. Some of the Torah's most prominent commandments needing further explanation are tefillin, as indicated in Deuteronomy 6:8 among other places. Tefillin are to be placed on thumb and on the head between the eyes. However, there are no details provided regarding what tefillin are or how they are to be constructed. Kashrut, as indicated in Exodus 23:19 among other places, a young goat may not be boiled in its mother's milk. In addition to numerous other problems with understanding the ambiguous nature of this law, there are no vowelization characters in the Torah. They are provided by the oral tradition. This is particularly relevant to this law, as the Hebrew word for milk is identical to the word for animal fat when vowels are absent. Without the oral tradition, it is not known whether the violation is in mixing meat with milk or with fat. Shabbat laws, with the severity of Sabbath violation, namely the death penalty, one would assume that direction would be provided as to how exactly such a serious and core commandment should be upheld. However, most information regarding the rules and traditions of Shabbat are dictated in the Talmud and other books deriving from Jewish oral law. According to classical rabbinic texts, this parallel set of material was originally transmitted to Moses at Sinai and then from Moses to Israel. At that time it was forbidden to write and publish the oral law, as any writing would be incomplete and subject to misinterpretation and abuse. 74. However, after exile, dispersion, and persecution, this tradition was lifted when it became apparent that in writing was the only way to ensure that the oral law could be preserved. After many years of effort by a great number of Tanaim, the oral tradition was written down around 200 CE by Rabbi Judah Harnazi, who took up the compilation of a nominally written version of the oral law, the Mishnah. Other oral traditions from the same time period not entered into the Mishnah were recorded as Barei Tat, external teaching, and the Tosefta. Other traditions were written down as Midrashim. After continued persecution, more of the oral law was committed to writing. A great many more lessons, lectures, and traditions only alluded to in the few hundred pages of Mishnah became the thousands of page snow called the Gemara. Gemara is written in Aramaic, having been compiled in Babylon. The Mishnah and Gemara together are called the Talmud. The rabbis in the land of Israel also collected their traditions and compiled them into the Jerusalem Talmud. Since the greater number of rabbis lived in Babylon, the Babylonian Talmud has precedence should the two be in conflict. Orthodox and conservative branches of Judaism accept these texts as the basis for all subsequent halakha and codes of Jewish law, which are held to be normative. Reform and Reconstructionist Judaism deny Father's texts, or the Torah itself for that matter, may be used for determining normative law, laws accepted as binding, but accept them as the authentic and only Jewish version for understanding the Torah and its development throughout history. Humanistic Judaism holds that the Torah is a historical, political, and sociological text, but does not believe that every word of the Torah is true, or even morally correct. Humanistic Judaism is willing to question the Torah and to disagree with it, believing that the entire Jewish experience, not just the Torah, should be the source for Jewish behavior and ethics. 75. Divine significance of letters, Jewish mysticism. Close-up of Torah scroll showing a verse from Numbers with Tajin markings decorating letters written in Ktav Ashuri. Kabbalists hold that not only do the words of Torah give a divine message, but they also indicate a far greater message that extends beyond them. Thus they hold that even a smaller mark as a social yod, the serif of the Hebrew letter yod, the smallest letter, or decorative markings, or repeated words, were put there by God to teach scores of lessons. This is regardless of whether that yod appears in the phrase I am the Lord thy God, Exodus 20:2, or whether it appears in and God spoke unto Moses saying, Exodus 6:2. In a similar vein, Rabbi Akiva, c. 50 c. 135 CE, is said to have learned a new law from the Riyat, in the Torah, Talmud, Tractate Pesachim 22b. The particle it is meaningless by itself, and serves only to mark the direct object. In other words, the Orthodox belief is that even apparently contextual texts such as and God spoke unto Moses saying, is no less holy and sacred than the actual statement. Production and use of a Torah scroll. An old open Torah case with scroll. Manuscript Torah scrolls are still scribed and used for ritual purposes, i.e., religious services. This is called a Sefer Torah, Book of Torah. They are written using a painstakingly careful method by highly qualified scribes. It is believed that every word, or marking, has divine meaning and that not one part may be inadvertently changed lest it lead to error. The fidelity of the Hebrew text of the Tanakh, and the Torah in particular, is considered paramount. Down to the last letter translations or transcriptions are frowned upon for formal service use, and transcribing is done with painstaking care. An error of a single letter, ornamentation, or symbol of the 304,805 stylized letters that make up the Hebrew Torah text renders a Torah scroll unfit for use, hence a special skill is required and a scroll takes considerable time to write and check. According to Jewish law, a Sefer Torah, plural, Sifrei Torah, is a copy of the formal Hebrew text handwritten on gevil or cloth, forms of parchment, by using a quill, or other permitted writing utensil, dipped in ink. Written entirely in Hebrew, a Sefer Torah contains 304,805 letters, all of which must be duplicated precisely by a trained sufer, scribe, an effort that may take as long as approximately 1.5 years. Most modern Sifrei Torah are written with 42 lines of text per column. Yemenite Jews use 50, and very strict rules about the position and appearance of the Hebrew letters are observed. See for example the Mishnah Berurah on the subject. 76. Any of several Hebrew scripts may be used, most of which are fairly ornate and exacting. The completion of the Sefer Torah is a cause for great celebration, and it is a mitzvah for every Jew to either write or have written for him a Sefer Torah. Torah scrolls are stored in the holiest part of the synagogue in Ark known as the Holy Ark, Aron HaKodesh in Hebrew. Aron in Hebrew means cupboard or closet, and Kodesh is derived from Kadosh, or holy. Torah translations. A page from a Mikraot Gedolot including text in Yiddish. Aramaic. The Book of Ezra refers to translations and commentaries of Hebrew text into Aramaic, the more commonly understood language of the time. These translations would seem to date to the 6th century BCE. The Aramaic term for translation is Targum. 77. The Encyclopedia Judaica has at an early period, it was customary to translate a Hebrew text into the vernacular at the time of reading. For example, in Palestine and Babylon the translation was into Aramaic. The Targum, translation, was done by a special synagogue official, called the Miturgeman. Eventually, the practice of translating into the vernacular was discontinued. 78. However, there is no suggestion that these translations had been written down as early as this. There are suggestions that the Targum was written down at an early date, although for private use only. The official recognition of the written Targum and the final redaction of its text, however, belong to the post-Talmudic period, thus not earlier than the 5th century CE. 79. Greek. One of the earliest known translations of the first 5 books of Moses from the Hebrew into Greek was the Septuagint. This is a Koine Greek version of the Hebrew Bible that was used by Greek speakers. This Greek version of the Hebrew Scriptures dates from the 3rd century BCE, originally associated with Hellenistic Judaism. It contains both the translation of the Hebrew and additional and variant material. 80. Later translations into Greek include 7 or more other versions. These do not survive, except as fragments, and include those by Aquila, Symmachus, and Theodotion. 81. Latin. Early translations into Latin, the Vetus Latina, were ad hoc conversions of parts of the Septuagint. With Saint Jerome in the 4th century CE came the Vulgate Latin translation of the Hebrew Bible. 82. Arabic. From the 8th century CE, the cultural language of Jews living under Islamic rule became Arabic rather than Aramaic. Around that time, both scholars and lay people started producing translations of the Bible into Judeo-Arabic using the Hebrew alphabet. Later, by the 10th century, it became essential for a standard version of the Bible in Judeo-Arabic. The best known was produced by Saadia, the Saadia Gaon, aka the Rozag, and continues to be in use today, in particular among Yemenite Jewry. 83. Rav Saadia produced an Arabic translation of the Torah known as Targum Tafsir and offered comments on Razak's work. 84. There is a debate in scholarship whether Rozag wrote the first Arabic translation of the Torah. 85. Modern languages. Jewish translations. The Torah has been translated by Jewish scholars into most of the major European languages, including English, German, Russian, French, Spanish and others. The most well-known German language translation was produced by Samson Raphael Hirsch. A number of Jewish English Bible translations have been published, for example by Kroll Publications. Christian translations. As a part of the Christian biblical canons, the Torah has been translated into hundreds of languages. In other religions. Samaritanism. Samaritan Torah scrolls. Mount Gerizim Samaritan